Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to have a look at this shotgun here, which is a Dominion Arms Grizzly. It's in 12 gauge and it is a Chinese copy of a Remington 870. Remington 870 has been around since 1950. Very good gun, made in North America, but the patent has run out, so this is a Chinese unauthorized copy. First things first. Action is open, chamber is empty. This gun is safe to handle. Very plain gun, plain black finish. Has writing on the side, put a bit of chalk in there so you can read it. It says Dominion Arms Grizzly. And over here, that's 12 gauge, 2 3/4, and I think that says 3 inch, I'm not really sure. This gun hasn't had an awful lot of use and it's already beginning to get scratched and scuffed up, so finish is not very durable. Observations, and what can we say? The forend is a nice forend to use. Unfortunately, it's made out of smooth, heavy black plastic. The buttstock is a dimpled, non-slip finish. And you'd think they'd do it the other way around, wouldn't you? It has a very short length of pull. It's approximately, I would say 3/4 of an inch shorter than a regular Remington 870, maybe half an inch. I haven't measured it, but it is short. I haven't changed it. For me, this is a winter gun, a gun that I would use on the farm in the winter. I've made a modification. I just dremeled off a flat area of the stock and put on a cheap ATI so that I can carry ammunition with me. These are snap caps. Again, very simple operation, just put them in the magazine there. Okay, other observations. Well, this gun, I really did not intend to buy it. I went to buy a barrel because I wanted to try it on my trusty 870 there. This is a 12.5 inch barrel. You can also get them in 8.5 inches, but what use they are I really don't know, but 12.5 inches is reasonably handy. You can still get 4 shells in the mag and 1 up the chamber if you want to. I don't really want to talk about the 12.5 inch barrel. I bought that for a specific purpose, which was, to keep it handy on the farm, in the tractor, or in the truck, on the ATV, or similar things to that. Main job for this gun is euthanizing sick and injured animals, and also for protection against predators. There, I have talked about it after all, haven't I? Anyway, so that was my use. You may want to use it for tactical competitions or something like that. Okay, so I told you I didn't really want to buy the gun. I just went to buy the barrel. I took the barrel away and tried it in my Remington. Fitted fine, worked fine. The guy then said, well, if you want to buy the barrel, I might as well throw the gun in as a parts gun because it had been returned. It wasn't functioning properly. There were problems with it. He said it wouldn't extract. So anyway, that sounded like a challenge to me, so I took the gun away and set to find out why it wasn't functioning properly. And the way I did that was I just stripped the gun down on the table and then stripped down my 870, which works perfectly, and compared the component parts of the two and made a few modifications to this gun to make it similar to mine, and it was reasonably successful. This gun now functions perfectly well and reliably. I haven't had a failure to extract or eject, and I haven't had a jam. It's probably only had about 120, 125 shells through it, which isn't an awful lot, but up to the moment it's been all right. So I'm going to strip the gun down and I'm going to show you some of the modifications that I did to it. So just bear with me a while. Okay, we're back now and the gun is in its component parts. Well, the first thing I did was look on the internet to try to find out what problems other people have had. And the great majority of the problems are solved by polishing the chamber. The chamber is this part of the barrel where the shell will sit. Excuse me. Get a shell. This is a dummy, by the way. So there we go. So that slides in and out very nicely. But when a cartridge or a shell is fired, obviously it expands and it would stick against the walls of the chamber, which were very, very rough. If you put your finger in, you can feel the chamber. Now, the way to polish up the chamber and make it nice and smooth so that the shells will release is you just take a brass brush, wrap some wire wool around it, soak it in thin oil, gun oil if you like, stick this end in your electric drill, shove it in there and then rotate it slowly up and down and just polish the chamber. It doesn't take long, and I went further than that and I polished the whole barrel, make it nice and smooth, and that would decreases the chances of leading because the internal machining on the barrel was pretty bad. So anyway, polished everything up. So shells can be extracted out of there fairly easily now, or very easily. Another thing I looked at was the extractor itself. It wasn't very well made. It had rough edges on it where there shouldn't have been rough edges, rather a weird shape. So I took that out and I filed it so that it was exactly the same as my Remington. Okay, so that was the main thing. So the gun was now functioning okay, but very, very stiff and notchy. Horrible thing to operate compared to the very slick and smooth 870 over there. This was a pig. So I looked closer at things and then I looked at the action bars, and if you can see this area of the action bar here, now that slides against the magazine latches. There's one this way and one that way, and they open and close the magazine latches and release a shell to be loaded into the chamber. Now we have a very, I don't know what the word is, but a very gradual angle there. Now this gun, when it came, had a very sharp angle, and that was the main cause of a lot of notchiness. So what I did was I filed it down until it was exactly the same angle as my 870. A spot of oil and grease on there, or grease, you know, whichever you prefer. Smooths things up an incredible amount. Also, it was necessary to smooth the action bars to prevent them galling inside the receiver. Okay, so that was work that was beneficial. We were nearly there. There were still other issues with this gun. This is the bolt out of that gun. Originally it was black. It's now polished. What I found was that it was hitting the inside of the receiver. So I filed a more rounded profile on the back here, smoothed it down. This is a bolt out of an 870 parts gun. You'll notice that this has been rubbing as well, just slightly. This was far worse. In fact, if you look there, you can still see the remnants of a very large gouge that was in there. So I smoothed off the bolt, and I smoothed off as much as I could the inside of the receiver. If you compare it to my trusty 870 over here, once again, action's open, chamber's empty, and this works incredibly slick. And look at my bolt here. It's still got its original black finish on. This gun is probably 23, 24 years old at least, and nothing's been rubbed off there. It's still perfectly fine. So this is a good functioning gun, so these bolts should look like mine, but they don't. Okay, so we've smoothed off the bolt, we've done the action rails, put the gun back together again. Still not the way it should be. So what's next? Well, the next thing is I took the trigger group out and I had a look at the top of the receiver. And what I found was that it had only been milled back to about here. The rest hadn't been milled. So the bolt was coming back and hitting the top of the receiver there. So what to do? Well, we've come this far, so we might as well finish the job. So what I did was, lacking a milling machine, what I did was I got a half-round file, and I spent a few hours filing away at the top of the receiver down through here. Quite a laborious, tedious operation, but anyway, we did it, or I did it, and I got the thing operating. Cleaned it all out, and I would say that the gun is 90% of the way there. My Remington is still better, but this is not bad. This, for what I want it for, is quite adequate, and I don't really intend on going any further. So my observation is the finish on these guns and the engineering is bad. They retail for around $350, and to be honest, I think it's borderline whether they're worth even that. If you step up to $500, you can get yourself a Remington Express, which I think is a better deal, personally. Like I said, initially I just went for the barrel, but I ended up buying the whole gun. This gun is not really any use to me other than on the farm, for farm duties. You could use it if you do tactical competitions or whatever, but if you do that, well, you're probably better off with a nice 870. I would say look for a used 870. It'll probably be far smoother. As regards parts, the barrel is interchangeable. This will go straight onto my Remington, but Remington barrels will not go onto a Grizzly without a tiny modification. This is a 28-inch barrel off an Express. So what you have to do is, it doesn't really alter the function of the gun at all, but you just have to file a tiny bit off there, just on that one edge of that slot, and then it will fit, and then you can still fit it back onto your 870 after, so they're interchangeable there. As far as anything else is concerned, there's not much that you can change. The magazine nut is a different thread. The magazine tube is a different diameter, so you can't put a Remington forend on. The stock is about 3/4 of an inch shorter than a Remington stock. So the through bolt is a different length, the through bolt has a different thread. If you want to change out the trigger group, the pins are different diameters. So having one of these as a parts gun for your Remington, which was one of my original thoughts, doesn't really work very well. I haven't tried putting a Remington bolt in it. At the moment I don't really have to, and I don't really want the thing to jam up and then to have to mess around trying to get it out. It may be fine, I don't know. I haven't done it. You know, if you've done it and it works, that's great. Oh yeah, this is the bolt carrier on the Dominion Arms Grizzly, and you can see the deep gouges in it, and it hasn't had a lot of use, this gun. So this bolt carrier is made out of quite soft metal. Compare it to a Remington one, which has seen quite a bit more use. This metal is harder and is not showing signs of wear like that one. If you were to give this gun a lot of use, like your tactical competitions, you might want to have a look at this and see how your gun is wearing. I did my usual modification for this type of gun. I dremeled off flat area of the stock and put an ATI side saddle on there, so you know you can grab your shells and load them easily. As far as the safety is concerned, that's in the same position as an 870. The slide release is exactly the same. Trigger guard is slightly different. Ejection port is different on a Dominion Arms Grizzly. It's slightly bigger, maybe. The corners are squared off, and these, when I first got it, were razor sharp. So I had to file those down, make them smoother. You could literally cut yourself on that. The trigger group seems to work okay. I've had it out and had a look at it. It seems to be fine. Very much the same as the Remington one, obviously. And I think that's about it. I can't really think of anything else to say. My advice to you is, if you're interested in one of these, don't dismiss it, but buy it from a store where you can go and inspect it, check it for function and finish. See what you think of it, compare it to an 870. Try to avoid buying them on the internet and having them arrive through the mail, because you're not quite sure what you're going to get, and you might have problems with the gun. You might think, well, it's a bit notchy, and use it for a while, and then find another problem, and it may be hard to return it then. I don't know what the guarantee is on these. So buyer beware. As Chinese guns go, I think it's fairly typical. I know there are some good ones and there are some bad ones. But be very careful if you buy one of these guns. Check it for function, make sure you're happy with it, and if you're going to use it for protection against large predators, put a lot of rounds through it and make sure it doesn't jam or fail to eject, and it's going to be reliable. So there we go. Dominion Arms Grizzly with a 12.5-inch barrel. Very loud, it will get other people's attention and yours. But accurate. This one just has a bead. For what I want it for, that is fine. You can get some with sights, but unless you're doing tactical competitions, I think they're largely a waste of time, just something else to catch on things. And if you are in a position where you have to defend yourself against a large predator, you're not going to be thinking about sights. You're just going to be pointing and shooting. A shotgun, after all, you do point. A rifle, you aim. Shotgun shooting should be almost instinctive. So I better shut up now and let you carry on. I will carry on with what I have to do. Good talking to you again. Take care of yourselves. Look after one another. Enjoy your shooting. Goodbye for now.